Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. As always, I'm Jeff Jones, one of your hosts, and my other host is, again, my good friend and a great shooter,
Steve Foster. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. You know, it's an early Tuesday morning. These are really working out well for us to keep the content coming out for our listeners, and we've got a good one. If you've been on Facebook, Twitterverse, Instagram, if you've been keeping up on the rumor mill, reading the smokestacks, the smoke signals, if you haven't done any of that, you don't know, but we have our first ever 13 division GM in steel. And we've got him here today. That's right, people. We're talking to Daniel Mathias. Daniel, how you doing?
Good morning, guys. Doing fantastic. Doing great. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, you know, it's quite an accomplishment. And, Steve, you've got 6 GMs?
That's correct.
And somewhere working on the 7th?
Yep. Actually, 8, but
single stack, right? Pretty close?
Yep. Yeah, single stack's getting up there, and Carry Optics is up there. Just haven't shot them much lately, but I think Daniel's inspiring me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got 7 and real close in optical sight revolver, which is same kind of thing. He's inspired me to, get out there and say, you know what, he's got 13, but maybe I can at least get my 8th, which is pretty darn cool. Because when it comes to me, I don't know about you, but when it comes to me, the iron sights are going to be difficult because these old eyes don't work like they used to.
That's true. That's true.
So actually, Daniel, first of all,
go ahead.
joking. Hold on, Steve. Joking about my age. How old are you?
36.
26, did you say?
36.
36 years old. So you still got over 20 years on me. I hate you. Okay, Steve, you had a question.
No, I'm just gonna ask Daniel. So, of all the divisions, what was the toughest one for you to become a grandmaster in?
That's a difficult one. I would say, from a technical perspective, just pure shooting skills, and the peak times, I would say limited is the one that I chased the longest. I think I was at 94% for almost a full season until I got the last percentage that I needed. But mentally speaking, the most difficult was production, which was the last one. That was just, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself on the last one. So it was definitely the toughest one mentally to just relax and shoot.
And you finally got it. You finally got it when you relaxed and shot, right?
Yeah. I think the mental aspect of this game is so important.
Oh, we've talked about it.
It's
at length.
Huge.
So yes, absolutely.
It's huge. Just being in the moment, just being present. It's amazing in a 2-second string or what have you, depending on what gun you're shooting, how much your brain can, process a bunch of other things that are not related to what you should be looking at for that exact specific moment. It's 5 plates, but sometimes you're on plate number 2 thinking about your draw. Well, that was a good draw. It's probably going to be a good string. Maybe we should push it a little harder. And then all of a sudden you miss a plate 3. And it's like, where'd that come from? I was doing so well.
Yeah. The classic one that I always talk about when I'm training is when you rip the first 4 plates and then you just kind of, you're on this high of just going fast and everything's working. And like you say, this is all happening sometimes in under 2 seconds. And then you just crank one off of the stop plate, cocksure, ready to take your great time. And you've shot and you're almost reloading, and then you realize you missed the stoplight.
Absolutely. So. Yeah.
Well, so how long have you been shooting and then shooting Steel Challenge?
Well, I moved to the US early 2017. I was a huge store next to where I was living, and I actually came from, well, a little bit about myself, but I actually came from skydiving, and winter was upon us, and I couldn't skydive anymore. So I figured, hey, there's a shooting range. I'm going to give this thing a try. And I ended up meeting some very nice folks that took me under their wing, fantastic people. And so I pretty much started shooting end of 17. I would say shot some bowling pin matches over early 2018. And I think my first ever steel match was November 2018 or something. It was like the last match of the year at Riley Conservation Club.
So what you're saying is that if you'd have moved to Florida where you can skydive year round, you probably would have never been a shooter.
That could have been a big possibility for sure.
Well, you know, it's funny how things like that work out. You know, how you end up finding the sport or finding a passion. It's interesting. So, you know, it just happened to be, like you say, where you're living, where you were working, what was near you. Hey, this looks interesting. And then, of course, I think a key issue is finding a group of people that are fun to be with in the sport. You know, if your first time you shot and people were grumpy and standoffish and not willing to help and all that, you probably would have gone, this sport isn't for me. But from my experiences is that, you know, 95% of the people are just the opposite of that. I've seen Steve, I've done it. You know, somebody breaks a gun, you're like, oh, here's my gun, go shoot. And you know, it's just what we do. And I've borrowed guns and I've let people borrow guns, and it's just it makes the I don't know, the sport feel more like home to me.
Absolutely.
Hey Daniel, where did you move from?
From Brazil.
Oh, okay. What brought you to the United States?
Work. I got a position here with the company I was currently working with.
Oh,
what do you
awesome.
do? What is your profession?
I'm a project manager for steering systems in automotive for ThyssenKrupp.
Okay, super. Well, you know, being the stalker that I am, I went and looked at your SCSA records, and you know, I'm gonna, you know, people, I know you don't want to hear this, but you know, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to give you the full moniker of 13 Division GM, because I noticed that you haven't shot speed option in carry optics. So, you know, I may have to hold off on my accolades here.
Well, that's not true.
Did it has that changed? Because that's the way I saw it.
That's not true. It's not just carry optics. I think there's a PCC in there as well.
Oh, did I miss another one? See, you know, we're going to have to call Zach and we're going to have to call them and go, you know, well, yeah, he got it, but, you know, does it really count? No. I actually was when I was looking at your scores, actually was quite impressed in the fact that you did not do this, which would be quite within the rules, to just shoot, you know, any 4 stages and you could, you know, pick and choose shooting the speed 4. You've shot, you know, virtually all the stages with all the guns. And so it hasn't been just, you know, I'm going to go out and shoot a roundabout showdown, smoke and hope and accelerator. You know, you added the tough ones in there and they're all over 95%. So again, you know, I'm just poking fun with you.
I mean, absolutely. And, you know, I've been chasing this for a while, as you guys can imagine. And, as things happened, I moved to the next gun. My goal was how far can I push myself in different divisions, and we've seen people try it in the past and get very close. And I know I wasn't the only one chasing it, so that's pretty much how that happened. So you shoot the matches you can attend locally. Most of them are 4 and 6 stages, and sometimes you shoot 4 or 5 matches or whatever, and that stage never comes up. But it gives me something to look forward to, and still something to chase.
Yep. No, that's great. That's great. And now you and I talked. I kind of know the answer to this. And Steve asked what he thought was one of the more difficult guns. What was the gun that was the most fun to get?
Oh, that's an easy one. That was OSR. That was optical revolver.
For those, and Steve, I know that you've shot it, but I think you shot it to get your Club 13, and you haven't done much more on the revolver side of it. But
that's correct.
for those that want to just have a good time shooting a gun, from Daniel and I, you can't go wrong with OSR. And I'll let Daniel express his feelings behind it. But the one that I had is the fact that, one, you have to stay really focused because, you're only going to have at most 8 shots, and you might even be shooting a 7-shot revolver. And if you're shooting a 6-shot revolver, I'm giving you some serious cred. But there's no expectation. And so when there's no expectation, again, getting into that mental aspect of the game, your brain stops thinking, oh my God, I got to go fast. You're more worried about going, I'm shooting a revolver, and it just feels a lot of fun. Daniel, would you have anything to add on that?
I mean, absolutely. I love open. I'm forever an open shooter in my heart. But when I pick up the open gun, it's like, okay, this is business time. Let's go. But when I picked up the revolver, it was exactly like you said. I mean, there's no other words for it. I had no expectations. I had no idea what was going to happen. I picked it up and I put 50 rounds through it. I sighted it in and I took it to a match, and I figured, hey, this is what it's going to be, and I'm just going to have a good time. And I think on that day I already shot a couple of master stages, and then I was like, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop smiling after I was done with the string. Like everybody's looking at me and was like, "You're a 2011 shooter. You're you're a single stack. Like there's no way you're gonna be good with a revolver. Like you don't know how those triggers work. You don't know what we all have to deal with." And it was like I just had this grin on my face, and I was like, "Okay, let's see how this works." And it was. Yeah, I couldn't stop laughing. It was a good day. I won't forget that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Daniel, what revolver are you shooting? Are you shooting the 929 or what?
Yeah, the 929.
Did you do any work to the trigger or anything like that? Any other sort of custom stuff to it?
So this is actually an interesting story, because when I started to chase it, I still had to get the PCC and the revolver, and I started to look for a revolver online, and I found one on the practice core ads, and it was already fully tuned. And I said, you know what? I don't know anything about revolvers. I don't know the first thing about them. I think to this day I can shoot them, but if I had to take one apart, I'm pretty sure I can't put it back together. So I found this revolver, and it was tuned by one of the Smith & Wesson team guys. So I figured, this is gonna take me where I need to be, and that's what it was. So I know it's had some work done with it to it. I have the list of what was done to it, but please don't have me speak to it. I can tell you a lot about a 2011, but the revolver is. To me, it's just fun. That's what I do with it. I pick it up, I clean it, and I shoot it.
That's awesome. We were talking last week. I shot Metal Madness for the first time a week and a half ago, and they have it's all rimfire at this point in time, and it sounds like it's going to open up to centerfire next year. But man, I've got a couple of 617s. I shot my open revolver. Oh my gosh, I felt like a kid. That was so much fun. So I know exactly what you're talking about. There's Brian with Hunter's HD Gold has a TK Custom 929 in his van. I picked that up last week at that Metal Madness. Oh man, that thing is awesome. I think I gotta get one of those done. That's really cool, man.
What you're saying is if you're going to be at a match where Brian's at and you're shooting revolver, yours magically broke.
Exactly.
Because if for those that don't know, and my God, for those that don't know who Brian Conley is, you're either very new to the sport or haven't been to anything but maybe a local match. Brian invented Hunter's HD Gold, one of the best shooting lenses on the market. They transcend multiple shooting disciplines. He's got different eyewear for, kind of somewhat specialized for different of the disciplines, including shotgun and of course, Steel Challenge. And I know for a fact he's at the USPSA Nationals right now. He's puts up some great videos. He's always out there. In fact, I was watching, he was taping the Carry Optic Super Squad yesterday. So I got to see a little bit of his Facebook Live transmission. He has bought a Sprinter van and has what he calls the Magical Mystery Tour. And Steve, have you ever seen anything like this van anywhere?
No, absolutely not. But you know what's kind of interesting, Jeff? There's going to be an interesting article that's going to be in USPSA magazine pretty soon that's going to talk a little bit about the evolution of Hunter's HD Gold into Hunter's HD Ruby. So coming to a magazine rack soon.
Oh, and I'm sure it's going to have been written by one of the world famous authors. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But this
a big shout out to Brian for everything that he does for the shooting sports and for the shooters. This guy is a legend.
Yeah. Well, again, I've said it on this podcast. I've said it to his face, and I'll say it every time. He came up with one of the best marketing plans ever for the lenses. You walk up, you're looking at them. There's a bunch of different styles and they're on the racks there, and you're looking at them, and Brian goes, "Hey, do you like those?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Go shoot with them." And people are taken aback. What do you mean, go shoot with them? Go shoot with them. Take them, go shoot with them. Well, do you want me to leave a deposit? Do you want me to sign something? No, go shoot them. Go enjoy the match. Come back and tell me what you think of them. And most people come back with their checkbook and they buy the lenses because they speak for themselves. But getting back to the Magical Mystery Tour van, when you go inside the van is where a lot of the magic happens. In the back, he's got multiple guns for multiple divisions, specifically to ensure that a shooter whose gun goes down can still stay in the match. So here's a guy that's not shooting. He's not a shooter and is ready to still be there for the shooters. Well, I take that back. He's not shooting the match. Brian is a shooter. I believe is it Triple Forks is what he owns?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, no, he's a shooter, but when he's at these matches, he's representing Hunter's HD Gold, but he's there with these guns and he's got everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's got a Billy Strickland buck mark on the table, doesn't he?
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, he actually shot Metal Madness. So
did he? Yeah, there you go. Well,
second time I've seen him shoot a match.
Was the first time at Rimfire Worlds when he shot in the Cowboy division?
That's correct.
I believe he won that too, didn't he?
No,
Larry Joe won. Larry Joe won. Wasn't that? It wasn't Larry that won that one?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Sorry, Larry. So anyways, getting back to Daniel, I was looking here at your scores, and with regards to production, looks like you really turned it on there in the month of October. In the first 10 days of the month, you're able to get 3 different matches in. I think mainly because the Kentucky State Steel Challenge match was happening, and you actually set 5 personal bests in this is what, from the 2nd to the 10th. So within an 8-day period, you set 5 personal bests. That had to feel pretty good.
Oh yeah, that was a big relief, especially on the last match. I think that was when I took a 5 to go and pendulum really, and where I actually made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just I think that's the biggest challenge around, let's say, trying to accomplish this goal. At least it was for me, just changing multiple platforms. And sometimes also shooting, you can shoot 2 to 3 guns in a match. And the combination for me sometimes would change, And I think once you're tuned to a gun, right, then it happens, right? So I think that's a lot that has to do with, you're going to shoot sometime with that gun and try to get tuned to it, or the gun tuned to you. And then once everything is perfect, then things start falling into place. And I think one personal best starts, building on top of the other. And then your confidence is there, and you're not pushing it. You're just letting it happen. But let's say that last pendulum was textbook. I will never forget that stage. I think it was 103%. And that day, it's just a technique and a mental aspect that I want to save with me for the rest of my career in shooting, and try to replicate that, because that was just textbook. That was pretty good.
I'm guessing, if we were to go back, if they were using the AMG Labs timers, Alex is a personal friend of the podcast. Just want to point that out.
Alex is the man.
Yes, absolutely. If they were using those timers, of course, we could go into Practice Score Competitor and actually see it. But I'm guessing it was just, as you say, it's textbook. The draw was on, and it was every one of your runs was a 1-for-1 run. You did not, of course, have any misses.
I think the first run was a 3-5. Then I followed that, or a 3-4. I followed that with a 3-5 that had a makeup shot on play 3.
Okay.
And then a 3-2, 3-1, and 2-9.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, absolutely. Just, getting faster every stage, and by the end there, you were cranking it. Yeah, that ended up being a 12:52, and the peak time is a 13. So yeah, that's, as you pointed out, 103%. But that's fantastic. So what's next? Are you done? Have you said, okay, now I'm going to go to long range, or I'm going to, start a new discipline, or have you got another goal for yourself with regards to Steel Challenge?
I need a rest now, but I'm definitely not retiring. And hey, I got 13 guns to clean. That's a lot of work for the winter, okay? So that's my goal. I want to clean all the guns. I got throw them apart.
That's great.
Put it all back together and test fire. That's a lot of work. Yeah, but no, I think one of the reasons you also saw a lot of matches here in the last few days is I knew the season was coming to an end, especially here in Indiana. You still have matches throughout the winter when the weather is not too bad. But especially coming out of a draw, for me, coming from where I come from, I'm not thrilled about drawing a gun at 40, 50 degrees. So that's actually what I did last winter as well. That's when I chased the PCC. So they were all shot in December, January, February, I think. Because it's just a lot easier from low ready, so to handle the cold. And I knew that was coming up. So I wanted to make a final push and get production in. because I wasn't sure, that I was going to be able to put personal bests, let's say with colder weather coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that last push also came from. And now I want to focus a little bit on the family. Just have fun, just go back to shooting open and our FPO, which is the divisions that I love, and go from there. Let's see where it takes. I'm sure something will come up.
That's great. That's great. Steve and I know I don't know if it's the coldest match Steve's ever shot in, but I know it was the coldest match I've ever shot in. It was about 4 years ago at the Griffin match at the end of February. And I think we started the match in the morning, and it was, Steve, you remember something like 37 degrees?
Yeah, it was actually it used to be held the first weekend in February.
That's when it was. That's when it was.
And I think it was actually 32, 33 degrees. It got up to maybe high 40s, which felt like a sauna, but yeah, it was pretty cold.
I remember because I had 2 sweatshirts, a jacket, a scarf, a hat, and gloves on. And I'd hear, that I'd be the next shooter. And all of that came off. And it was a quick load, a quick make ready. Okay. And shoot 5 stages and then bundle back up because there was no way I was going to be able to shoot in all that extra covering. But there was also no way I was going to last if I didn't have that. But then, as I remember, by the end of the day, it got into like the mid 50s, maybe even the low 60s. It was a crazy day for the temperature.
Yeah, it was probably felt hotter than what it was, but yeah, it definitely got a lot warmer.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel.
Go ahead.
Daniel, I was just going to say, Daniel, I want to know just a little bit more about, because a lot of our listeners shoot, of course, especially the Steel Challenge. Can you walk us through what your training regimen is? Not necessarily so specific to, a lot of low ready guns. Let's talk about the last couple, like production limited that you mentioned. What's your practice regimen look like to be able to achieve what you did?
Yeah. That's a good question. I wish I would train more. Most of my training is shooting matches, to be honest with you guys.
Sure.
What I will try to do is, at least the ranges that I like to shoot now, I moved because of work, so I'm a little further. But there's a facility here in Indiana, ProTech, and they have stages set up around the year. So that's pretty awesome. You can just go and practice. So that's usually what I'll try to do. Just go out there and practice. And if I have a big match or something, or I'm trying to figure out a new gun, so I'll just put in for a day off work. Just drive there and spend the day, maybe or half a day, 300, 400 rounds. Just really figuring it out. Tune what I want to tune on a particular stage. And kind of go from there. But I don't have, let's say, a scheduled weekly routine or something like that. I'll sort of do it on demand based on what I'm seeing from matches and things like that.
Sure. How many rounds would you say you've shot in the last 12 months?
That's an easy one. I can look that up. So
I
like
Daniel already, but I love him even more because he keeps track of his rounds, which is something I do. So kudos to you, my brother.
Yeah. So 2021, we're at the 14,400 mark.
That's not bad at all.
No.
Are most of those center fire?
Most of them. I haven't shot too much rimfire this year. What I had is RFRO and RFRI. I was still sitting on old classifications, so it wasn't a 95% GM anymore. So I cleaned those up here in the last couple months, but most of it was center fire. Yeah. I would say 2019 is probably when I shot most of my rimfire. I shot 29,000 rounds that year.
Wow. That's great.
So let me ask you this. Taking out the mental aspect of the game, because I think if I were to say what's the most important part of the game, you might respond with the mental aspect. Take that out. What do you think? And of course, it may be different for each gun, but in general, what do you think is the biggest concept that any shooter listening to this could go to the range the next time and work on to improve their scores?
Oh, that's a good one. There's so much stuff there. But I think it really depends on what the goals are, right? I'm a numbers guy. So to me, it's always understanding where you are. It's maybe looking at other shooters that you're trying to, let's say, be part of or be par with, and break that down into numbers, and figure out where it is that you need that 1/10 or 2/10, because sometimes we underestimate how much a tenth per string is. If you can shave a tenth off your draw, for example, right, and you're consistent about that, and that's half second per string. That's 4 seconds in a match. That's huge nowadays.
Yes. Yeah, it's huge.
Yep,
it's huge. That's one class. And everything else, I think, goes back to the mental aspect, and if you know where that tenth is, and just chase it and be happy with it, and not try to go 2/10, because that's when the train falls apart. But then we're back to the mental aspect. But I would say what really helped me in steel is kind of bundling the stages. I shoot, for example, 5 to go, speed option, and pendulum. I call those the 3-second center fire stages. So, part times that are around 3 seconds. To me, those all have the same pace or the same mindset, right? Then you have the 2 to 2.5 second stages, the fast ones, where you just have to, punch it. There's no, it's speed. That's just full speed, just going full speed, and of course as fast as you can by keeping it under control. And then there's one in the middle that I still need to figure out, and that's Accelerator. I haven't classified it, and that's the one that I either shoot really well, or it doesn't go well. So Accelerator is one that if I average out all my guns, most of them I'm at 98%, 99%. Accelerator, I'm at 95. So I definitely have some guns where I haven't figured that one out yet. It's a combination of a fast stage with a slower stage. So that's one that I still look forward to, let's say, breaking it down into different aspects and just figuring that one out.
Well, it's interesting you say that. And Steve, I want you to answer this same question I just asked Daniel, but I want to make a comment about Accelerator. I personally think that if you could only practice one stage, that Accelerator is the best stage to test, to practice on. And the reason for that is it's got the combination of a big swing. So you've got a large transition that you have to make. You've got relative distance. 20 yards. Okay. Yeah. It's not a 35-yard shot that you might have in speed option or outer limits, but you've got a 20-yard shot. You've got a 12-inch plate. You've got a very fast second shot if you're shooting it in the classic 1, 2, 4, 3 stop pattern. That second shot is just a ripper, but you've also got, it's not the most difficult draw, but it's a 10-inch plate at 10 yards. And so I personally think it's got the mixture of everything that Steel Challenge is providing in the different stages. Okay. It doesn't have any elevation change. Thank God. We'll leave that for pendulum. So, but that's my opinion. But Steve, I'd like your opinion on this. Taking out the mental aspect of the game, what do you think is the next thing that is a success element to someone's shooting career?
I hate to go this route, but I will. I think you got to make sure that your stuff works. I mean, I won't give out any names or anything like that, but there's some people that shooting a major match this weekend and going to a match with a gun that may not be running 100%. I mean, at the level of shooting that we're talking about, you can't be thinking about anything else. You know what I mean? So you can't be worrying about, hey, is my gun going to go bang this time? Is this thing going to cycle and those kind of things? So I think that part of it's extremely important. But taking that aside, that's why we invest in, a lot of people say that like the new JP5 is a lot of money. I am telling you that I actually ordered a second one. So I'm waiting for my second JP5 to come in just because I'm going to use it as a loaner gun because the thing is so well tuned. I mean, I'm sure I could run that gun for 10,000 rounds without a single hiccup. But that's why I think it's important to invest in the best stuff out there. But I think to back up all the way to, how do you become a better shooter? I've spent some time with a couple of folks at the range, but really what's helped me the most is my analytical side. And so when people come to me to train, we talk about numbers all the time.
Yep.
You have to understand where you're at. And it may not necessarily be, the split between, plate 2 and 3, unless if there's an opportunity, because I call it a hitching my giddy up, because it's funny what Daniel said about Accelerator. That is the first stage when I started shooting, I had the toughest time with. And what did I do? I set up and shot Accelerator probably more than a lot of people will shoot Accelerator in a year or two, but it got into that rhythm. I don't know what it was, but I kept, and I find that tendency still today sometimes where like with my long guns, I'll actually point shoot plate number 4 for some reason. And it's no. I know that I need to see the plate, but I really got to keep a focus on my dot. So.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because you brought up a couple concepts there that I agree with. And Daniel pointed out something, and that is, I too am a numbers guy and actually have a 3x5 card in the back of my van and a copy of it in my range bag that for each stage, for each gun, I have my average string time for my personal best.
Wait, but doesn't everybody?
See, you've got 3 shooting nerds here, so we're all going, yeah, what? That's normal.
I don't know how I would live without that.
But I have borrowed. I had a training session last night, and I borrowed so much from Steve in talking with him on the podcast and watching his videos, because it really is just great information to share with students. And Steve calls it the edge, and that is that time that you can shoot that's right before the train wreck happens, and knowing what you're doing. Again, if most shooters want to get in there and they want to get faster every string, it's just natural. Oh, I just shot a 2.5 on Smoke and Hope. Now I want to shoot a 2.2. Now I want to shoot a 2.15. And you're shooting open and you're going, holy crap. For a rimfire rifle, that might not be great, but for an open, those are, blazing times. And you realize that in the past, you've been a 3-second shooter on that stage. And if you knew that, when you throw the 2.5, you say to yourself, okay, I'm on, just keep throwing 2.5s. And you're going to crush the stage instead of trying to get faster every time and getting much further away from what your norm is. But yesterday I was working with some good friends on Showdown, And this is something that, and I think you guys would agree. And if you don't, please say something, but you've got to be going to be the best you can be. You've got to trust in your shooting. Don't shoot scared. Okay. But you got to put down those 1-for-1 runs. And it can't be just a lucky 1-for-1 run. It can't be, our good friend Tom Nealon calls it the blind squirrel run. It can't be a 1-for-1 run that's just flinging the gun around, because that's not going to be consistent. But makeups cost you so much time that, staying focused. And, Steve, how many times have you told people, even on Smoke and Hope, when you set the world record, you saw the dot on every plate?
That's
right?
Exactly right. You can't outshoot the gun. And and that's what happens a lot of times, is that little bit of panic comes in the back of your head and you don't feel like you're shooting fast enough. But if you're really focusing in on your sights and shooting, you are shooting a lot faster than what you think.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's the beautiful part about this game is that, and we've all been there, we have all shot a great match, a personal best match, and possibly lost to someone else who shot a little better. And the cool thing about that is that you can be happy for them, but you can be ecstatic for yourself because you did the best you could have possibly done. You just set a new personal best. Could it have been better? Yeah, well, maybe next time it will. But, that happened to me at Worlds. Shot first time under 100 in open. And I'm doing it at the World Speed Shooting Championships. And I couldn't have been more ecstatic. I was in A class at the time, and I came in second place. And I shook first place hand, congratulated him, and was still ecstatic because, well, I snuck by and won the old guy division. But, I shot the best match I could possibly have shot. So, Daniel, what do you think about that concept?
I couldn't agree more. And not to be repetitive of, what you guys just said, the place where I do find that those, just blazing runs where maybe you're not seeing everything are good for, that's called practice.
Yeah.
Because that will help you. At least it helped me learn to see faster. And I think there was an article not too long ago about a guy whose name shall not be named, who sees the bullet, right? So how do you get there, right? If Grant's seen the bullet, right, he learned to see fast, right? And I think that's a good training tool to just train your sight to see faster. So you're gonna have to push it in practice to the point where maybe you're not seeing everything, and then say, okay, so this is where the wheels fall off, and and that's just knowing where you need to push next, and each stage is different.
Well, the other thing I've been
talking about. Jeff,
before
we get into that was an amazing article. I wonder who wrote that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Again,
Jeff.
it was that anonymous world-class author that
shameless plug.
Daniel, we like to have fun.
No, but that's why do you think I mentioned it?
Well, I like the shooter who can see the bullet that we're not going to name, but Grant does a really good job at that. It's and Daniel, to expand on what you said, I had a training session last night. I got another one coming up Wednesday, another one Thursday with shooters. And, my big saying now is this is called practice. This is not called perfect. I expect you to make mistakes. I expect you to shoot outside your comfort zone so you can find out where that comfort zone is and then perform in a match. I personally believe that most shooters that make it to the A range, A classification, have a grandmaster string in them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And all that's keeping them from being a grandmaster is the ability to do that at least 4 times. It's not the ability. Well, 3 more times. Yes. Thank you, numbers guy.
I mean, what you're absolutely right. But what I meant is I agree.
Yeah, no, I know. We're all friends here, and I'm used to it. Have you heard that Steve's got a home range? So, but yeah, I believe that shooters that make their way up to the A level have that grandmaster string in them, and if they were to go back and look at and really take a look at just analyzing their scores, they're going to see that they're taking 2 or 3 misses, makeup shots into their scores on every stage. And, you pointed out that, a tenth of a second makeup, and you do the math, that comes out to be almost 4 seconds for the match is huge. But do the same thing and go, just take 1 makeup string on every stage. And let's just be fair and say the makeup costs you about 0.3 seconds. Well, you do the math there, that's 2.4 seconds for the match. And again, when you're talking about getting into the master and the grandmaster level, that's an eternity. And so, I think, I've preached the whole grip the gun, go 1 for 1, but it really is true. And what you have to do as a shooter is understand, take the concept from Steve. What's your edge? Take the concept from what you talked about. Have some fun. Talk about what we all know, which is whatever gun you're shooting, you've got to see your sights. If you're just flailing, even on Smoke and Hope, if you're just saying, well, I just need the see white in the reticle, it might work, but it's not going to be consistent. What do you think?
I think that if you can see the white in the reticle, you're just not seeing fast enough to see that the dot could be there.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Great concept.
Hey, Daniel, I know we're approaching close to an hour here. I just want to get a little bit of some technical advice from you. When you're shooting, let's say pendulum, what's an average draw time? And let's talk about, an iron sight gun, like the last 2 that you got, the unlimited or production. What type of draw time are you looking at your first plate?
I've chased a 1 second draw for quite some time.
On pendulum?
No, but okay. I'm just saying that, I did. I won't lie. I chased it because I thought that that's where the secret juice was.
Sure.
But I found that if you're within 1.2, even sometimes a 1.3 draw, realistically speaking, not just practice point at the berm and send one off, right? I mean, you're talking about getting the hit and moving to a transition plate. Because I also found in practice that there's a difference if you just draw to the plate, and then once I add a transition, automatically the draw usually gets slower by about a 10.
Absolutely.
And if maybe that's a little bit too much of shot confirmation, and that's also something I want to, let's say, shave off. But I found that if you are within that 1.2 average, of course, every stage has, a little different. Sometimes you're drawing to the left, sometimes you're drawing to the right, sometimes it's a square plate, sometimes it's a round, smaller plate. But I think that that's overall where I found that there's really, I stopped chasing a specific time after a while. Once I saw that I was getting frustrated by trying to get, a 1 second draw, for example, on speed option or a 1.1, and I wasn't getting there. And then I also realized that, if your other 4 plates are doing well and your transitions are flowing, it's not that 1/10 there that's going to make it or break it, especially if you're going to end up having a bad grip or or, you know, you're going to throw it before you actually are ready to shoot. So nowadays, the draw is whatever it's going to be. And the rest of the stage, I'm going to push it there. But it improves with everything, right? As you improve your index, everything just I would say evolves together.
That's a pretty that is a pretty fast draw, especially on those types of plates, which we've seen with a lot of other top centerfire shooters. Is there any one thing that you can attribute to how you picked up speed on your draw, or did you just come out of the holster that fast?
I think dry fire helps a lot, and shooting. Like I said, I'm a fan of open, and I actually learned to draw on the speed holster. So actually going to the Kydex holsters for production and carry optics later was an adjustment. But I would say that's dry fire. Then that's something you can do at home, you know, for free. And then again, I think that there's a lot there that is, you know, numbers and kind of breaking it down into components. And I think that there's a lot of information out there, and you kind of have to find your own path. And I think most people have a hard time with this. And I had a hard time for a long time listening to this, you know. Just give me the secret sauce. There has to be a ready recipe that I can apply, and everything is going to work.
See, wait a minute. He's from Brazil, but he's already become Americanized. Just give me the pill that will make my life easier, and I'm good. I don't want to have to work hard. Just like you say, give me the secret sauce or the pill, and I'm good.
Yeah, and I think we all chase that, right? It's part of our early careers. Early. I'm super early in the sport, but I still have a lot to learn, a lot in front of me. So yeah, but I think that chasing that, you know, that secret is somehow not very productive, and it's kind of hard to swallow that one when, you know, when there's so much information out there. But you got to find out what works for you in the end.
Sure.
Good stuff. Well, you know, this usually takes about an hour for Steve's driving to work. I'm guessing he's almost to the parking lot. So let's wrap this up. Daniel, any parting thoughts for our listeners about, being the first 13 division GM?
Well, I've gotten a lot of feedback over social media, and I just wanted to say, you know, to all those people that took some time to put in a few words, that they're really appreciated. I'm honored and really humbled by some of the comments out there. So I really appreciate just the recognition and from the whole community, and also, you know, all my supporters. I couldn't have done it without, you know, great gear I get from Rafferty, and just having the access to the facilities and at ProTech, and, you know, just being out there. SNR has always helped me out here in Indiana as well with supplies. You know, without those guys, it makes everything a little harder. So I really appreciate all the support I've been getting so far, and also really appreciate just the camaraderie of the shooters. And, you know, Steel Challenge is a big family, and you definitely feel that when you're out there.
Fantastic. Sure. Steve, what do you got coming up? I think you're heading to Rimfire Worlds here, aren't you?
Yeah, this upcoming weekend, heading back to shoot Rimfire Challenge, which has been, probably 2 years since I've done that. So look forward to that, and then maybe sneak in a couple of Florida matches here at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah. You know, we've got the Florida States coming up here in December. And early in 2022, we have the Ultimate Steel Challenge over at the Volusia Gun and Hunt Club, both of those. The range, you know, is I love the range. It's a little bit of a hike for me, but I love going over there and shooting that match. Gorka and Lloyd, who bought the range, are shooters, and they've taken the range to a whole new level because they understand what shooters want. And, you know, Greg runs those matches, and, you know, the sticks are at the right height. They're in the right position. Every shooter's got cover over the shooting boxes. And, I think they've solved most of the drainage issues. So you're not walking through a lake to get to the plates to have to paint them. So they've done a real good job over there. So I'll be at those matches, and I hope to see you there.
Sounds good. And Daniel, thank you so much for taking your time out with us this morning. What a great accomplishment, and congrats, sir, and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I've always listened to the podcast. It's kind of surreal to be on it for a change. So,
well, we were happy to have you on. Thanks for coming on, spending the time. For those that don't know, we do these things we start up at about 6:30 Eastern time. So it works out real well for Steve and his driving to work. So, my alarm went off and I actually popped out of bed and went, oh, good. We're doing a podcast. I enjoy these mornings. So I hope everybody has a good time listening to this. And hey, Steve. Uh-oh. Did we lose Steve? Uh-oh. There he is. There he is. You know how we end these. Give out that coupon, that discount code.
Yeah, it's ST Podcast 10 for anything off ragestore.net. Thanks, Jeff. Right. Have a good morning.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.